Hey folks, it's AK here from AKTech, and today is a super exciting day. Just took delivery of the Model Y, and what we're doing today is really for anyone that is taking delivery of these vehicles, just kind of a walkthrough, so to speak, or a checklist of what you want to be kind of looking out for when you take delivery. Obviously, I've driven this home, but I did do this delivery checklist upon inspecting the vehicle and receiving it. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Hopefully the method I'm going to be explaining to you is the most time efficient method, because we're going to be literally walking around the car, and as we walk around we're going to be going through seals, fitment, alignment, paint, all that at once, so you're not having to walk around for the paint, walk around for the wheels, walk around, etc. We're going to kind of do all this in one step, and hopefully that will help you guys out. So just keeping in check with all the checklists, I'm going to go ahead and post this online so you guys can see, but we're going to go through it step by step. So you want to start off basically in this first area here, and the reason why we want to do that is because we're going to circle around the car and end up back at the driver's side door. So once we're at the driver's side door, we'll go ahead and start inspecting the interior of the vehicle from the driver's side. But when we do walk around, we'll go ahead and inspect the front, the interior of the passenger, and front and rear driver's side areas. So let's go ahead and start off with the front quarter panel. Unfortunately, Tesla is notorious for having paint issues, gap issues, alignment issues, etc., because they're essentially not a car manufacturer, they're a technology manufacturer, and they got into the car game. But since the early days, this Model Y has improved significantly over what Tesla used to have. So let's check this out. First thing we want to do is just physically inspect the vehicle for paint issues. So we're going to kind of go over this, and it's ideal to do this over a sunny day. You can kind of inspect it for paint issues. So you can see right here there is a minor paint chip on the inside. So take a picture if you see that. You want to document all of this. So if and when the salesperson or your advisor says that, hey, you guys caused this, you would say, no, this is upon delivery, this was here. It looks pretty good for the most part, but we're going to go through it. So again, note those issues. Also note the alignment of your fender and how it lines up with the hood. Same thing with the headlight. You want to run your finger across it. This one, as you can see, does have a little bit of a protruding piece at the bottom, but that's within spec. Same thing here. The fitment looks good, and you want to basically go all around and just make sure everything looks good. This looks a lot better than some of the other vehicles I've seen. Again, this is within spec, I would say, nothing major. So go ahead and do that for all the areas, but we're going to just go ahead and continue. But look here. I know it's a little hard to see, but you can see the paint is kind of faded here, so they may need to touch this up slightly. Headlights look good. We're going to go ahead and continue. And one thing you do want to carry with you at this point is a mirror. And this mirror will actually let you see on the underside when you're checking if there are any imperfections or anything like that, any major scratches. And this is mostly for your side trim pieces, the side skirts here, and front and rear bumpers. So this will definitely help, so make sure you have that as you walk around the car. Again, you pick these up at a dollar store if you need to. So as we continue, we've already gotten the headlights, the front quarter panel. You want to also inspect the wheel. One thing I did notice right here, you see that? I was like, oh man, that's scratched up, but that's actually the grease when they apply the wheels onto the tire. So there's just grease, no major scratches. Same thing with the entire rim. You just want to make sure everything is in place. Also, underneath, I know it's a little hard to tell, but you want to make sure none of the panels inside have anything dangling out. There was like a noisemaker that was dangling out one of the other Ys. I looked online, so you just want to make sure everything is fit and secure, no rivets or anything out. So as we continue, and you guys can just walk with me as we look at this, just again, checking for any obvious paint imperfections. And one thing that's really handy to have while you're doing this is the quick detailer with a microfiber towel. This will kind of help you verify that, hey, is it just some dirt or is it actual scratch? So just spray some on and wipe it off with this and you'll know right away. So as we continue inspecting the front, we want to just make sure everything is good. Also get your mirror out, check the undercarriage. For the purposes of saving time on this video, I will not do that. But again, we're back at the headlights. Go ahead and run your finger underneath, make sure it's nothing major. This is not a chip. Same thing with the fenders here. You want to go ahead and make sure the alignment looks good. Front. Remember, run your fingers because you will notice, at least on here, there is quite a bit of a gap, but it wasn't major. I think maybe the frunk just needs to be adjusted. It's a front hood. At this point, it's also a good time to go ahead and open the frunk and just verify that you've got all the contents inside. So let's go ahead and do that, and you can do that with your app. At this point, you want to make sure that when you do tap the open, the frunk does open, and it should be pretty light to open up. At this point, we're just making sure, one, you've got the tow hitch in there. All the panels line up correctly. You know, I got scared when I noticed this earlier, but this is just some residue here. It will actually come off with some quick detailer. I did forget to take that off there, but again, you want to just look on the inside, make sure all the panels are good. Same thing with the paint underneath. It's not ideal. Let me see here if we can capture it. You know, it's on the underside. It's not as bad as the first models, but definitely not perfect, but again, it's acceptable. There is nothing really that points out to me that, hey, return this car. And again, Tesla will you know, go ahead and touch these things up and fix it for you. The last thing they want is for you to return the car, and unless there's something major, you really don't want to do that, because then you get back in line and have to wait. So again, just panels, again, they are a little flimsy plastic, but as long as nothing is just unclipped, these clips on the side, they kind of hold everything together. Nothing really and again, you do want to shake these around because you want to make sure nothing's loose. You want to also inspect this seal here. This is the seal for the front trunk. You want to make sure that it is not coming out. I mean, this is a little loose, but again, there's going to be a little bit of play on there, but just nothing obvious. Now, one thing I have been told is when we close the trunk or the front trunk, you need to be very gentle because this material is quite thin, and it feels like it is. I felt like if I put any excess pressure on it, it would bend. The paint, you can tell there is still a little bit of orange peel on there. Let's see if we can capture it on the camera. It's kind of hard, but definitely orange peel on there. So it is what it is. But we're going to go ahead and continue. Again, alignment check on the side here. Looks pretty decent. And then while we're here, we're going to also check the wheels, make sure your wheels are good. Same thing with the panels underneath, make sure everything lines up. I did notice that this panel here did have a little gap, and it just looks like it wasn't sitting properly, so that's something to notice. Alignment here, not bad at all, not bad. Like I said, when you're here, you just want to run your finger across these grooves. Like here, I can tell that there is a little bit of an overhang here, not major, but like I said, it's your car and you want to make sure it's good. Same thing with alignment of the mirrors, the trim, something to just look out for. While we are here, we want to also take a look at the windshield, make sure there are no cracks, no major imperfections. Unfortunately, you cannot lift these out. I don't know if these will actually come out. Maybe. Okay. Yeah, you just want to make sure you don't scratch up your hood right there. So when these come out, just make sure they move accordingly, I guess. I mean, that's something we can check out on the inside. Again, just have your mirror, so when you want to check the underside, just make sure no major scratches or anything. Again, I've driven it, so I'm going to be seeing all the dirt and things like that. A great way to also check for dents or imperfections is kind of looking at the lines of the car from different angles, just kind of seeing if there's anything obvious that is pointed out. A couple people noticed that there were some dings and stuff on their car when it arrived, specifically on the inside. So that's always something to be very careful of, because they will say that, hey, you've taken the car off the lot and it's not our problem. So now we're at the front door. We're going to go ahead and again inspect the panel gaps, make sure everything's good. Thankfully on this one everything looks very nice. Nothing wrong with the trim here, no scratches or anything like that. We're going to go ahead and also check how the trim lines up against the door. Again, on the front, very minor imperfection, nothing major, but on the back it does look like there's a little bit more of a gap on the back here, but to each their own. It didn't really bug me. So, but with that, let's go ahead and open the front door, and you want to make sure it opens properly. Grab the handle by the thumb, pull it out, make sure the door opens, make sure the window also rolls up and down. So again, up, down, looks good. A lot of owners complained that their windows weren't rolling down properly, and as we're here, I'm just trying to make it most time efficient. So you want to just kind of glance at the seals around the door, make sure none of them are loose, make sure there's no sagging or anything, and you want to do that all the way around. Same thing here. The seals here, you want to make sure, like you can see here, there's like a little bit of a bump, but just make sure that it is taut and not loose. You don't want to have any issues while it rains on your brand new car and have water leaking inside. Same thing with any road noise or wind. The other thing you want to check is make sure you have a front mat. Just kind of gloss it over. You'll have more time to kind of look at this when you actually get the car. One thing I did notice was on the inside there were several fingerprints and marks. You can see even up there are a few marks. Even on the back I had seen some, so the upholstery definitely needs some work from the delivery guys. Probably someone touching the seats or outside and then touching the inside. So definitely something to look for. Again, while we're here, we're going to also kind of look at the panels here, make sure there's no obvious gaps, make sure there is no scratches or anything on here. No major imperfections. Speaker grills look intact. Another speaker up here looks good. So let's go ahead and move on to the rear door. Forgot to mention this, but go ahead and sit inside and test out the door handles. Make sure the door is closed, there aren't any rattles or anything. Very important to do from the inside. So as we're going around to the passenger side seat, passenger rear, driver rear, and then finally the driver's side seat. So now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and check this out. Make sure it opens, make sure the glass lowers and also closes. And again, I mentioned as we're walking through this, go ahead and inspect the trim. Here it looks a little funky, like as if a piece was missing here. And again, this is also a little misaligned, but not a major issue. You can see the paint on the inside of that is something some people may get concerned about. They're like, well, it's not lining up. But again, it all matters if it's important to you or not. It was misaligned just a tad. Nothing out of spec from what I can see. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with the door. Make sure it opens properly, closes. Looks good. All right, but let's also inspect the door from the outside. Make sure everything looks good. No major chips or dings. Again, a very minor paint mishap right here, but aside from that, I did not see anything. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down again because it is a little filthy, just to make sure. But one thing I had noticed when I picked it up was this mark here, and yeah, that is definitely a paint chip, and the advisor did take a picture of that. So again, you want to kind of look everything over with a fine-tooth comb, because again, these are expensive cars, these aren't cheap, and you want to make sure there's no major imperfections. So let's go to the rear door. It is tinted, and again, as we're doing this, let's go ahead and also look at the panoramic roof, which is absolutely beautiful. But want to make sure this expensive piece of glass does not have any chips, cracks, dings, or dents in it. Same thing with these top pillars that run across the A, B, and C pillars. Want to make sure there's nothing obvious. And again, in the back, I've had some people, so there's a little bit of dirt and dust, but the mat runs all the way across. Again, you want to just inspect the seats, make sure everything's good. There is this here that will allow the seats to fold down manually and then back up. And the cool thing is you want to test if it goes back like it's supposed to. So you can do that, and you can do the middle compartment too if you want. Just make sure everything is how it needs to be. And you can do this while you're here or when you're on the other side of the car. But one thing to note is right here, this is where that ding and dent was. Because it's on the inside, no one sees it. Sometimes people don't notice, but several owners did mention that there were certain dings, dents on the inside of the door. So just be very careful and make sure you check that thoroughly. We're at the rear tire. We're gonna rear wheel and tire, and we're gonna make sure everything is good. All the panels are nice and solid, nothing coming out, no issues with the rims or scratches. There was this here I had seen, but that was from the service center, just a chalk marking, nothing major. Same thing here. As I walked back through the car, one major thing was the tail lights, and I can say thankfully this side is pretty perfect. Right here, just a little bit misalignment, but nothing major. This does feel like it was misaligned. And then as you come to the back, you start noticing, okay, well, I'm going down the trunk, and boom, right here, that was probably the biggest alignment issue, because the trunk should be sitting flush on the back here, but it is not. And then as it goes across, you can see the alignment becomes more pronounced, and that's where the taillights don't line up. But it's a simple alignment on the trunk, not going to be a big issue. While we're back here, we're going to go ahead and inspect the back side of the glass, make sure everything is good, nothing major wrong with it. And then we want to kind of walk down again, and here's that little plastic gap I mentioned also in the front. Again, nothing major for me, but you want to go ahead and inspect it, make sure you're okay. And this is actually a really good time to look at the paint. Like, you can see that there's some minor issues here with the paint, maybe where they corrected it or something. I'm gonna have the paint corrected at a local shop, but just a good angle to kind of see all the way down if there are any bumps, dents, anything else. You'll always want to look at it from a horizontal angle so you can kind of see the whole picture, and you'll kind of see if it's smooth, you won't have any issues, but if there is a dent, definitely noticeable. So when we're back here, we're going to go ahead and inspect all of our alignments and paint on the back. Go ahead and look at the tail lights. Like I said, this one's fine. The other one definitely has an issue. And again, we can notice the gap on the back, so something definitely notate. If you've got the performance package, go ahead and inspect your carbon fiber spoiler here. Make sure there's no cracks or anything. And you want to also get underneath here. Again, like I said, look at the paint from different angles. Make sure there are no nicks or scratches, and then go ahead and inspect the glass on the back. Make sure there are no scratches or anything on the back. You want to make sure the glass is in nice shape. Go ahead and open the trunk, and we'll go from there. At this point, you want to make sure the trunk opens all the way across, and you can start from whichever edge of the trunk and kind of note that the seals are all okay, no major issues. Gonna make sure this is nice and snug. A couple adjustment things here, and yeah, everything looks pretty good. The paint, unfortunately, while on the top is okay, on the bottom it is definitely not all there. You can see right here on the side there's, from the foam filler, a little bit more on there. Again, it's unseen and it's nothing major, but just something to point out in case there are issues down the road. The shocks look okay here. Paint, again, not the best. And then dust does get into these crevices, so I don't know if that, I'm assuming that's normal. You also want to inspect the seal around the trunk, make sure it is fine. Unfortunately, we can't do a water test when we're picking it up, right? I'm not going to sit here with a hose, but something definitely to do, run it through a car wash afterwards. Okay, maybe not a car wash. Let's just put a hose to it and make sure that there are no obvious leaks. This looks like it's a little loose, but again, doesn't look like anything major. So once you've inspected that, go ahead and come inside. Sorry for the mess, but this is the charging cable that comes with it. You've got your normal plug here, the adapter, and it comes with your 110 plug. And then you've also got your 240 plug that also plugs directly into the car. So those are things that you want to make sure you have. And then I'm going to just kind of put my finger in here because this is easier. We want to make sure this slides in and out pretty easy. No issues there. Looks like it's good. Oh, probably need to move it forward just a little bit. There we go. Make sure it sits nice and snug. The reason I did that was so I can move this over and check out the deep well in the back. Make sure all the wells are good condition. There is an AC adapter on the back here. You want to make sure that works at some point. You get a front license plate holder, etc. Make sure that's in there as well. And then you want to just kind of lift this, make sure this works just right. Make sure it sits fine. I initially thought there would be an issue with this snagging when the latch closes, but it looks like it is okay. And then you've got these switches. Go ahead and enable them. Make sure the seats fold like they should. And unfortunately they don't come back up, but you want to also make sure these panels, the carpeting on the back is okay. I've noticed here, for example, since I took this off, when I push the seat back, this is going to get pressed up again. So at this point, I'd like to maybe move this a little bit and make sure those pieces go underneath. Oh, well, look at that. You can already see that a piece of the seat was not glued properly, or maybe it's just not clipped down, so it might just be a clip. So go ahead and take note of that and make sure that all these things seat properly. And I'm sure warranty will cover it from Tesla, but you just want to notate it in case they say, no, it wasn't our fault. Go ahead and hit the button, make sure the trunk closes properly. And again, you want to do that just a couple times to make sure that there are no snags or any issues with that. The cool thing is you can also adjust how high this thing opens up. If once it's open, you can lower it and just hold that trunk button and it will actually stay at that point. Go ahead and open up the charge port with your phone. And here we're just making sure that the charge port opens and closes. If you press it down, it will close. If you leave it alone, it will close too. So probably best to just see if it opens and closes by itself, and then when pressing it, it'll close. When you bring the charger closer and hit the button, it will open up. So just something to keep in mind. Again, we're going to go ahead and continue with the alignment of the panels back here. Just make sure everything looks nice. Here we can see it is a little bit more misaligned than the other side. And I also noticed a nick right here on my trim. Alignment here looks good. Just again, note everything, because the trim is especially important, because they're going to say that, hey, no, we didn't do that. So definitely go ahead and do that and note it. We want to measure, not measure, but kind of look at the panel gaps here. Looks good. Again, we're at the wheels. Want to make sure the wheels are good. And again, I mentioned that this side was grease. You want to make sure that it is grease and not an actual scratch, so make sure you have a cloth or towel to look at it. And since we're back here, remember, get your mirror, check underneath. I'll save that for you guys, but we want to again test the functionality of the door, make sure it opens and closes properly. And while we're here, we're going to go ahead and check the inside. Whew, it is extremely hot here today. We're going to check the inside, same thing as the other side. We're going to check the seals, make sure everything is good. Make sure that there aren't any dents on the inside of this body panel. And then we can go ahead and raise the seats here. They are quite heavy to do with one hand, but once they're back, go ahead and test the functionality, make sure they recline and come forward. Go ahead and open up the cup holder, make sure that works. And then you want to also individually move this, and there is a latch on the back. On the back side here, this is where the latch is. So you want to make sure that also individually moves as well, and then locks back into place. All right, folks, we are almost done. So once you've inspected that area, go ahead and come to the front, and this is our main area here. If you've got your key card that came with it, go ahead and place it right here. Make sure it opens, make sure the sensor's open. And again, we're looking at the trim here, making sure we don't have any issues with it. Like I said, I noticed a small nick here. You want to make sure there isn't anything with your trim. This was actually something from the factory. This comes off. Haven't actually gotten it detailed, so we'll have to wait on that. But you just want to make sure that your trim is flawless and it doesn't have any scratches, or if it's just dirt, that's fine, just wipe it off. Same thing, we're going to check the panels right here where the trim comes in, up here back to the quarter panel, A-pillar, make sure everything lines up nice and good. Come down on the door, put your finger between the gap, and come all the way down and make sure that, hey, it is nice and flush. You don't want anything too crazy, nothing that is too big of a gap that would create wind noise or anything. Now we can go ahead and come on to the inside, and that's where we will stay for the rest of the inspection. So obviously at this point, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and verify your VIN, and of course your color to match what you had ordered. And you should have 2 of these key cards. So if you've got this, you want to make sure it works. Literally place it right here, maybe here. There you go. And once that works, go ahead and open it, close it, try it again for lock and unlock. So once you know that's working, move on to the inside and we'll go from there. Once you're done checking the outside, let's start off. We are back at the driver's seat where we started from. We started from the front quarter panel and we've come around. So generally speaking, you should have checked all the other panels and areas of the car. The only thing that's really left is now the interior in terms of functionality and how things work. So let's go ahead and do that. Right off the bat, you want to make sure that the door does close all the way and open with the door handle. This is something I forgot to mention when we were checking the other sides. Now that we're here, we're going to go ahead and check this out. Make sure it opens, make sure the glass lowers and also closes. And then we want to make sure all 4 windows roll all the way down. The rears will not roll all the way down, but down to about, I think 80% or so. So just make sure they, again, work all the way, and they should go all the way up if you pull on these little latches here all the way. So there's a just manual, and then if you pull it all the way up, it will do automatic auto up. So once that's done, let's move on to the interior of the car. You want to first check your dash and just obvious things, center console, make sure that things don't have any scratches on them. This is the wireless charging panel. Make sure that is connected and does work with your phone. Sometimes you have to remove the case. Again, these are fingerprint magnets, so make sure you've got like a microfiber cloth to kind of wipe them off to make sure no scratches are on there. Lots of dust and fingerprints. Same thing here, you're going to want to make sure that the screen, if you go to display and go to screen clean mode, you want to just inspect it, make sure there are no cracks or scratches on the screen. And my recommendation is to definitely get a matte or anti-fingerprint screen protector on it ASAP. Continuing with the interior, you want to look up, make sure there are no major smudges on the interior upholstery. You can see there's faint marks here. There's a couple smudges around, I noticed when I had picked the car up. So make sure that is all noted. Make sure the seatbelt works properly as well. Obviously, you'll make sure when you drive but this is before the driving part. And same thing, center console, make sure it comes up. Make sure you've got your little change compartment here. Make sure it opens and closes properly. And now, while we're up in the front seat, you want to make sure it moves. The seat moves forward, back, up, down, lumbar support, all of that. You want to make sure that all works as well. With the dash, you want to make sure there's no scratches on the dash and that it's in a good condition. I noticed that when I came in, you can still see right here, there's quite a bit of dirt and dust from when the car was brought in. They never cleaned that up. I'm going to just do that with my vacuum. I didn't really want them to come out and do all that, but when I take it in for service, I'll just mention it and maybe they'll clean the dash up a little more. Go ahead and turn the AC on once you're in the car. And it's charging right now, but with the regular 110 volt, that's why it's taking forever, but it'll be a lot faster later. We'll talk about that more later on. So you want to go ahead to the car button, and then you're going to go to quick controls. So you've got your mirror adjustments here. Make sure the mirror adjustments work, left and right. Same thing with the steering wheel. You can use that to go in and out. Very good. Just make sure all of that works. Once that works, you can go ahead and test out the lights. Again, it's a little hard to do in the beginning unless you unlock the car and the lights stay on. You can check, but go ahead and check out all your lights, fogs, parking lights, your dome lights. You want to turn them on, make sure they all are working. There's ambient lights, which is in the footwell, as well as in here. You can kind of see there's some light in there, so that you want to make sure that is working as well. You want to make sure you sync your phone. Later we'll tell you how to do that. Window locks, child locks, you can open it from the outside, and the child lock will prevent it from opening from the inside. So you want to make sure it works from the outside and not the inside if you've got children. Same thing with window lock. When you turn it on, oh, well, yeah, you can control it, but let's just make sure. Oh, well, we know that the window lock is not working. Interesting. Obviously, the other thing that you want to make sure is the map is working, the touch functionality of the vehicle is working. You want to, of course, try out the windshield wipers. Make sure those guys work. And then right here, you've got your blinker stock. Go ahead and make sure left, right, your emergency lights up here, make sure they work. Your high beams, you want to make sure those work as well. You can press the stock in for windshield liquid. I'm going blank here. So the liquid's actually built into the wipers. So if I press this, the wipers will come off and the water will come down through the wipers. So you want to make sure the horn, you want to press that. Same thing with the buttons. You want to make sure all this is functioning. We're going to keep the lights on in here so we can kind of see everything. So, and look, if you don't have the card placed here, it should give you this. So you want to make sure the card works. So go ahead and place it right by the cup holder, which it is. Oh, that is weird. Oh, the charge port. Yeah, of course you can't start the car while it's charging. So obviously that's the other thing. From that, check the music, make sure everything is working. The left knob controls the volume, and yes, we have Frozen going on right now. And the speaker system in this car is just amazing, but you want to go ahead and make sure all the speakers are working. I know it's a little hard to get up there and put your ear next to each one, but you just want to make sure there is volume coming from all the speakers, the tweeters, and all that. Aside from that, I think that covers the major stuff, but technical things, you do want to make sure your phone connects to it. You can lock and unlock the vehicle. There is a Bluetooth option right at the top right here. You want to go ahead and pair your device, make sure that works. I think this is for the Sentry recording, but right here you can also check Wi-Fi settings. So if you want to tether off your phone, make sure the Wi-Fi works for your vehicle. You can do that too. Other thing you want to make sure, front Defrost works. Kind of hard to test the back defrost, but you can heat and cool. Seat heaters, you can definitely test that as well. Definitely lots of things in here, but you know, the technical aspect of it is just touchscreen works, Bluetooth works, connectivity works, all that works. Backup camera, charging, you want to make sure voice works. I mean, there's certain voice commands, but you see it's picking up everything here. That's good. I think the most obvious thing I forgot to mention was definitely go ahead and drive your car when you're picking it up. I don't know if they'll let you do it without accepting delivery, but you want to make sure all your functionality works. Autopilot, if you've got the full self-driving, does take some time, so that'll take a little bit, but you just want to make sure that the handling is fine. It accelerates, brakes, does all things that normal cars would do normally. Obviously it's not a normal car, but you know, when you take it for a test drive, make sure everything is functioning as it should be. And if it doesn't, go ahead and make a note. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully we've got a lot more videos coming up, you know, some quick tips on how to set profiles, how to connect it to Wi-Fi, how to adjust the alignment height of the trunk, things like that. So please go ahead and like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. And again, it's AK from AK Tech. Thank you guys for watching. See y'all later.